Okay, we'll start in a moment. Okay, so we'll start in a moment, just a minute, and then I'll start. Okay, welcome. So we will learn SQL today. So press the like. That's will reach to more and more and people. Okay, so we will start in a moment. So today's topic is SQL. It's actually called SQL. Spelling is SQL, but it is normally called as SQL. It's pronounced as SQL, but actually it is SQL. Okay, you know what is its full form? Its full form is Structured Query Language, SQL, right? It's also known as, the full form is Structured Query Language. Structured Query Language because it is used to query information from databases, and I'll tell about what is database, what is query, how you can write SQL. All that I will cover. But if you want to know more about it, you can read the Wikipedia page of it. Okay, so you will know some basics, details. There are a lot of things, but lot of these things will not be used anywhere. Just for information, you can read more about it. But it could also be sometimes confusing, right? But it's a lot simpler than it actually is written here in the Wikipedia page. It's a lot simpler, especially if you do it, you will find it much easier. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comment. Okay, and we will start. Okay, so let's start. So SQL, so to learn SQL, you can go to w3schools.com. So in this website, you can learn many different programming languages, certainly SQL. So SQL is very useful language. It's very simple, actually very simple to learn. So it is basically used to this language is used to extract data from databases. What is database? So in all the websites that you are using, whether it is Facebook, whether it's Instagram, your information is actually stored in a table, right? In a database table. Okay, and let me show you one example. Okay, database table. So database table is where you store all kinds of information, right? This is like a table, right? You have information about customer, so customer ID, name of the customer, date, right? Similarly, what Facebook is doing is that to store information about a given profile, it is having a table where you have the name, all the information that you are providing to Facebook or Instagram or to all kinds of websites. Now, why this use? Actually, this is used in all places, right? The companies you are working in, all kinds of places. For example, Aadhaar in India is a good example. So Aadhaar is a database where you have information about all the citizens of Indians, right? So you have an Aadhaar number, so that is a unique number. Okay, so that is a unique number given to each citizen, right? No two person will have the same Aadhaar number, right? Aadhaar is unique, it is very distinct. So Aadhaar is a database where you have information about all the citizens, right? So let me show you how do I go? Okay, let me show you. Yeah, well, here you can see a lot of examples, but we'll get into the details. But before that, I would like to explain to you what is the database table, so that you can kind of understand it better. Okay, so here is a typical example. Okay, so this is the typical example of a database table. So here is the database table of, let's say, number of your friends. Okay, so your friend number 1, his name is Mickey, his last name is Mouse, his address is that, city and age. But remember that in database table you always have a unique column, which is unique, like one column which is called primary key. It is it is basically an ID which is unique to a given name or given row in the table. Okay, it's more like Aadhaar. So in Aadhaar it is never duplicate, right? You can't have Aadhaar, same Aadhaar for two people, right? Hence there has to be a primary key, right? So unique key. For example, if you have phone number is unique, right? So therefore in every database table you have one column. So these are the columns, right? First name, last name, address, these are the columns, right? So you will have a unique key. Okay, let me show you one more example. Yeah, here maybe let's say this is an example of your college database where you have student ID, right? For each student has a distinct ID or an unique ID, and then names could be duplicate. Okay, name could be duplicate, you can have duplicate name, same name to different person, but the ID should be unique. So there must be one column in your database which has only unique values, not duplicate values. So that is called primary key, right? That is called primary key. And then you have other columns which can be of any it can take any values, right? It can also take duplicate values, not a problem. Okay, so I highly recommend you going through the SQL Wikipedia page, some basic history about it, but it might look bit complicated, but actually it's much simpler. Okay, so if you go to W3 School, okay, w3school.com, here we can practice some of this SQL. So SQL is used to query information. If you want to know some information from this table, we use this language called SQL, or in full form is known as structure query language. Okay, it's called structure query language. Okay, so if you go to this page, W3 School, okay, it's called SQL tutorial. Here it is showing you start learning SQL now. Just click on it and it will take you to the introduction to SQL. Okay, and we'll learn the very basic. It's very easy language, it's very easy to learn. It's more like giving instruction to your servant, something like that. So it's so easy. It's more like human language. It's a computer language, but it's very similar to the human language. Okay, so as I said, SQL is a standard language for accessing and manipulating databases. So what is it used for? To access and manipulate databases, or to get information from databases, right? SQL stand for structure query language. Structured query language. Query means you are trying to get some information from the table, hence it is called query. Okay, it is a standard of American National Standard Institute, or called ANSI. ANSI is basically a authority body in the US that provides some standards to computer languages, right? It's more like in university you have UGC, right, which gives standard. So that's more like some kind of an organization. Okay. And what are the things that we can do in SQL? So using SQL, you can execute query against database. That means you have a database table. You want to, there are, let's say, some 1,000 observations. Okay, so you have a student database which has got student ID, income, name, address, gender, everything is there, and you want to know about 5 students. Out of these 1,000 students, only 5 students. The information about 5 students. How will you get it? You can get it by writing a SQL script or SQL code. Okay, and I'll tell you how to write. I'll give an example. So this is something you can do. So you can retrieve information. Retrieve information means getting the information. You can also insert new information to the database. Okay, so it is not about just getting information from database, but it also about inserting information. That means you are adding information to the database table. Okay, you can also delete. If you really don't want some observations in your table, then you can also delete. And you can also create new database table, like completely new, using SQL language. Okay, so these are some of the things that we will learn, we can do in SQL. So it's quite easy to learn and not very difficult. It's more like human language. It's like, so we can be easily learn. Okay. Okay, the simplest example is this one. So there is a table called customer. So the name of the table is called customers. Okay, you know what is what are customers? Customers are people who are actually buying things from you, right? So a vegetable shop will have customers who actually buy vegetables from the shop. Similarly, the customer of a, let's say, telecom company are people who are using mobile phones, right? So each and every company will have the details record of the customers, right? If you know Excel sheet, that is also a table where, you know, database table where you keep information. And these database tables are also kept because Excel cannot handle large data, because there are millions of people using mobile phones, or there are millions of customers, right? So you need a large database, right? So a database that has the company has is called customers. That means it has information about and we'll see what information we have here. Okay, now if you want to get all the information in that table, if you want to get all the information in that table, whatever information you have in that table, if you want to see, just write this code: select star from customers. Okay, and you might wonder why the color of select and from is different. It is blue, whereas the star and the customer, it is black. It is because this is a word is called keyword. A keyword is something that is already understood by the programming language or the computer system, whereas customers is a name you have given. So it's a name that you have given, right? Hence its color is different. Okay, so if it is a keyword, remember it will always appear a different color. Okay, and normally a best practice is to use capital letter for the keywords. Okay, there are many other keywords we will learn. So if you want to know all the customers in the table, just write select star from customers. Okay, now we can, let's try it ourselves. Okay, if you go here you have the language, right? Select star from customers. Let me run it. So here you see run SQL. If you run it, it will give you the result. Okay, so I have just run it. Just a moment. I think it's taking time, or it has the result. Yeah, it has already shown the result. So see, when we write select star from customers, you get all the information that you have. Okay, let me decrease the size a bit. Yeah, you have all the information you get what you have in the customer table, right? So these are the first row is the column. The first row is always a column, right? Name of the column. So first one is the customer ID, customer name, customer contact name, address, city, postal code, and country, right? And then the first customer, this is customer number 1, Alfred, and then customer contact name is Maria Anders, address is this one, city is Berlin, postal code is this one, this country is Germany, right? Similarly for the second customer, only this, right? Similarly for the third customer, you have this information. Okay, then for the fourth customer you have, so when you write select star from the table, select star from table, you get all information, all kinds of information from the database. Okay, so the 3 people who are watching me, can you all like the stream please? Okay, so you can get all the customer details, right? Very simple, right? It's extremely easy, right? And you can also try by yourself, right? If you are using computer, you can also try by yourself, or even in mobile phone also you can try, maybe later. You can simply go to W3 School and try writing code, and then it will show you. Now you might wonder, is it that only W3 School has this facility, or can you also write? No, that is not true. You can also install SQL database in your laptop or system and run this script. You can create your own table and run this script, right? In companies, in organizations, and when you will work in IT organizations, they will have their own database. They will have their own database tables. All you need to do is to simply write the query. Now you might wonder, why is that needed? Because sometimes some informations are needed quickly, and you can't directly go and get the information. You have to write this SQL language. Using the SQL language, you can get the information, required information, and there are many things about it. We'll learn about it. Okay, so we want to know, select only custom. So we'll select customers where people who are from Berlin. Okay, so we will use a keyword again, where. Then you have a column, city equal to Berlin, right? So we want to know information about customers from Berlin. Berlin is a city in Germany, right? You must be knowing, right? Hence I have just added a small thing, right? It's easily understandable, right? Select all information from this table customer where city is Berlin. Now this Berlin is a value, right? So it has to be within quote, single quote. You can also use double quote, not a problem. But if it is a number, then you don't have to use. But if it is just group of characters, it's called string. Group of characters means it's called string. Then you have to use single quote here. Okay, now let's run this. Okay, what does it give? It gives this information. So only one person from the table is from Berlin. Hence you see only this one information, right? One information. But let's try something else. Okay, so what I'll do is that I'll first delete this and try to get first all the information, right? Now you must be having all information. Yes, yes, but I want to know how many people are from London. Okay, so what I do is that where city equal to London. Okay, so let's see how many people are from London. Just run this. Yes, so there are 6 records. So here you see only people come from London. Here is selected, right? You see only city from London. So you have 90 observation in your table, but only 6 observations are selected because the criteria is matched only in 6 cases, right? Only for these customers the city is London. Hence you get information about these 6 customers, not for other not other customers, because the city is different there, right? So you might, so imagine your manager asking you, okay, can you tell me how many customers are from London, right? You can simply quickly write this statement, write this code, and you can quickly get this information, right? And then it can be also a bit more complicated, right? uh, for example, the your manager might ask you that, okay, tell me tell me how many customers are there either from London or from Berlin. That means both. Okay, either from London or from Berlin. So what you do is simply add a or statement, this or word. Okay, where or city equal to Berlin. Okay, that means now it will give all customers who are either from London or from Berlin. Okay, now let's run this. If you run this, you get 7 customers. You see the first customer is now from Berlin because you want both, right? Berlin and London. So we get customers from Berlin as well as from London. Okay, so easy. If you have a question, you can ask me here. So it's so easy, right? So easy to learn. Okay, now we will try to learn bit more detail. Remember to have this semicolon after this before you run. Okay, again we'll just revise. Select star from table, you will get all observations in the table, right? But you can also use criteria to select or take a subset of it. Okay, only a small part of it you can also take. Okay, so we want to know here customers okay, let's we want to select customers whose customer ID is greater than 25. Okay, so what do we do? Select star from customers where customer ID is the column name, right? This is the customer ID name, right? Is greater than, this is the sign for greater than 25. Okay, so we will now get, so it will now select the customers whose ID is greater than 25. Okay, now you will see, now we run it, just see. So you do not get anything below 25, right? It has to be 20, it starts from 26, 27, 28, 29, right? I can also do like this, it has to be greater than 25 and less than customer ID less than 50. That means it is greater than 25 and less than 50. That is what I want. Your manager asked you that give me customer ID which are between 25 to 50. Okay, then you can write something like this. Select star from customers where customer ID is greater than 25 or customer ID is less than 50, right? Run this. So here you will see the minimum, it starts from 25 up to 25, that means 26, and it ends at 49, right? Because it has to be less than 50. So it does not select greater than any ID which is above 50 or any ID below 25. Quite simple, right? It's very, very simple then. Now you might, so we are, when you write star here, right, select star, it will give all columns in the table. But sometimes we may not want all columns. Sometimes we just want some specific columns. If you want specific columns, just for example, let's say we want only column name and city. We don't want all the columns. What you do is that simple we in place of star just write customer name. Make sure to be spelling has to be correct. okay, and also wherever it is caps it has to be cap. Okay, customer name, city. Okay, so now we do not want all columns, all fields, only customer name and city whose customer ID is between 25 to 50. Okay, now let's run this. You will get only two columns now, not all six. And here you see you get only two columns, right? Customer name and city. And you can change also, right? If you want column name, a contact name, so contact name, right? So now we want customer name, contact name and city. Both have to be separated by comma, right? So that's one thing to remember. So here you get three columns now, right? Customer name, contact name and city. So easy? Easy or not? Tell me in the comment. Are you able to follow me or not? Or do you have any question? Okay, so simple, right? Okay, we'll do something else now. So let's start from the very beginning, right? Select star from customers. Make sure to ensure that the name is correct, right? If the name is not correct, then you will have trouble, right? Okay, we want then we learn bit about and or. Okay, that means we have already used and or, right? Did you not? In one example where I showed you that you want information either from Berlin, customers who are from Berlin, or from London, right? So we can also use and similarly. Okay, so for example, we want information, we want customer whose ID has to be greater than 20 and the city has to be London. So what do we do? Select star from customers. Star means you want all observations. If you want just few fields, then just put names, right? Maybe let's just put only we want customer name, right? Customer, we don't want all columns, looks clumsy. Customer name from customers where customer ID has to be greater than 25 and so there are two conditions. Customer ID has to be greater than 25 and city has to be London. Now remember one thing here, when it is a condition on number, then you don't have to use the inverted comma, but if it is non-numeric, is a character type, it's called string actually, right, in technical terms, then you have to use the inverted comma, right? There are so two conditions, so all the keywords should be in capital. That's a better way of writing, right? So please make sure to, I mean, if you don't use capital, that's also fine, but it's good to use capital. So there are two conditions, the two where conditions. Customer ID has to be greater than 25 and the city has to be London. Okay, so now let's run this. So it will give only one column, right? Because we only want customer name, right? If you want more columns, you can also add with comma. So now there are two people whose customer ID is greater than 25 and the city is London. Remember when we started only London, there are 9 people, right? And let me show you. Just remove this first condition and you will see that more people from London, right? So here with both conditions only 2 people matches, right? With customer ID more than greater than 25 and city is London. But in this case, lastly only people coming from London. So where city is London. So we have removed now the first condition, right? That means customer ID can be anything. Here you see there are 6 records, right? Here you see there are 6 records. Earlier there were 2 records. So that's the way you can manipulate, you can get or retrieve information from the database table. And now you might wonder where this data customer table come from. So this is a table already created by this website, right? And in the companies that you will be working in, the database table will already be there. But you can also create your own database table. That is not a problem. Using W3 School also you can create your own table, and in one separate session I will tell you how to create your own table, how to install database table and write code and everything. So that I will teach you. Okay. Okay, a few other things that we will. Okay, the next one is we'll learn about order by. Okay, order by means if you really want to in ascending order or descending order. You must be knowing what is ascending order, descending order, right? It's about ascending and descending order, right? Means increasing order or decreasing order. We can also do that. Okay, so we'll start from customer, select star from customers. Okay, select star from customers, order by customer ID. Okay, so here you see the customer ID was from 1 to 91, the 91 observation 1 to 91. We want to change the order, we want to make it descending, that means starting from 91 to 1. Okay, so how you do it? So you simply write a order by what? You can only sort by numeric, right? You can't sort by, well, you can actually sort by string variables, character variables, but sorting makes more sense when you use numeric value, right? And customer ID is the only numeric value in your database, hence we will use customer ID. That means now the sorting will be from 91 to 1. And when you use, so by default, if you don't use descending, then it will automatically sort by ascending. But if you use descending, then it will DSC, then it will give you information in descending order. Okay, so when I run this, now it starts with 91, right? Earlier it started with 1, right? It started with 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, but now it started from 91, then moved to 90, then 89, so 88. So it then moved down. Are you getting my point? So it is that simple. Okay, bit more. Okay, so we will select star from customers. Let's say where city equal to London, order by customer. That means it will first run this part, it will select all the information from customer table where city is London, then it will sort the information, the retrieved information, in descending order of customer ID. Okay, so let me run this. So here you see, so it selected 6 customer who are from London. So city is always London here, right? Because we have selected only information from London, right? And the customer ID here says here in the descending order, right? Means from highest to lowest. Started with 72, 53, 19, 16, 11 and 4. Now this is descending order, right? We want to make it ascending order. If you want to make ascending order, well, you can also use, I think, ascending, but you can also simply not use anything. By default it will be ascending. Okay, but you can also use, I think, ascending also you can use, but ascending. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so if you use ASC, ascending, okay, so it starts from the lowest and it goes to the highest. So 4, 11, 16, 19, 53, 72. Okay, so that is how. But if you don't use also, it automatically by default will give you, so order by customer, then it will give you ascending order. But for descending, you have to specify it. So even if you don't mention ASC, it gives you information in ascending order. Okay, so that's the way you can play around with this. And so what are the things that we learned today? So we learned actually what is SQL, right? What is its full form? Then we learned about what is it used for. We also learned about what is the database table, right? What is something also we learned. Then we learned about how to write your first SQL statement, right? Select star from table name or select star from custom. The name of the table here is customer, but you can also have other names, right? So it's not like it's the only table name, you know, it can be many other tables also. You can create your own table, give your own name, right? There's no problem with that. So you learned how to extract all the information by using select star from the table name, right? So that's what we learned. Then we also learned about subsetting it by using where clause, right? We learned how to use where, right? And then give more criteria in selecting, right? We use where city is London, where city is Berlin. Then we learned about how to use and or. And then we use how to order the information that you're, how to sort them in ascending order and in descending order. So these are a lot of things, right? We have learned a lot of things in just less than half an hour time. You can also practice that. So I give you this assignment that tomorrow you write first how to get all the information in a given front table, and you can create your own table also. Okay, I'm not going to keep, you can also create using hand, that's not a problem, right? Just create a table, maybe employee table, where you have employee ID, employee name, employee salary, employee location. Okay, so that you can create it, and then you write your statement, select star from employee, right? Then what information you will get. Then next assignment will be select star from select all the employees who are from a given location, right? A location maybe Mumbai or some location, right? So write a query on that. Use also some queries where you use and or, and also write some queries. These are basically called queries. Okay, so these statements are basically known as queries. Okay, in technical terms we call them as queries. So write some queries which will include order by, sorting of information. Okay, so those things you can do very easily using here also W3 School, but you can also do a handwriting, right? If you don't have computer also, you can write the information on a piece of paper and learn by yourself. But if you have access to internet, you know, always good to go to W3 School and write down the query and see by yourself how, you know, the query is working, and then learning by doing is very good, right? So hence that's the best way. So for today I will stop here, and we have learned so many things. You can practice all these things, and I will see you again tomorrow. Okay, until then, bye bye and good night. Yeah, can it be in pen and paper? Yes, it can definitely be on pen and paper. I mean, you can write the query and learn by yourself actually what will be the output. The problem with pen and paper is that if you make a mistake, then you won't be able to identify that, right? But if you make a mistake here, the software, I mean, here it will tell you, right? For example, the name of the customer is customer, but I just somehow forget to have this word letter S. So instead of customers, I just give customer. Then it will show an error. If I run this, right, it gives me error, right? Error 1 could not prepare a statement because there is no table called customer. It is customers. Okay, so S is missing. Hence, it is showing an error. So when you write on paper, I think that won't be very clear then, because you know there is no compiler here. So you can also but practice purpose you can do that, not a problem, if you don't have access to computer. Okay, but if you have access to mobile also, you can do, not a problem, right? You can simply Google search W3 School and go and start writing code there. So that is not a problem at all. Okay, if you have more questions, let me know. I will then address it later. but otherwise we will stop it for today, and then I will see you tomorrow with some more functionalities about SQL. But I highly recommend you to go through and learn yourself as to how you can use this language more and more, so that tomorrow we'll see some more complicated queries, some more complicated SQL statements. These are very simple statements, and then we'll see a bit more difficult statements, right? And with practice you can always improve your ability to write better code. Okay, so that's all for today. See you tomorrow. Bye.